Hey everybody, welcome back to Cinema Trip Reviews. I am Wyatt and this is Alex this week. Last week we had to put this episode off due to some unfortunate circumstances, but here we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Kill Bill, directed by Quentin Tarantino. And what better day to record this on is Quentin Tarantino's birthday itself. So I mean, we couldn't have picked a better day for this to happen. It's like fate.
Yeah, it needed to be pushed off for this.
Before we get into the video, of course, for anybody that's new to the channel, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go tell your friends about us. Check us out wherever you get your podcast. Drop in, leave us a good review. This is probably not only one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies, but probably one of my favorite movies in general. Not just the Kill Bill series, but more so Kill Bill Volume 1 is a masterpiece. Man, I absolutely love this movie.
It's a very good movie. It's a movie I actually got to late. I watched many Tarantino films before I got to Kill Bill. I didn't probably watch it until I was like 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was way late in my life. I don't know why I avoided it. I didn't avoid it. It just never came up in life.
Yeah. I would say this is probably one of my first Tarantino movies. It's definitely, probably this and Pulp Fiction are probably one of the first two I saw. I remember actually getting this one and Volume 2 like as they came out on DVD. And I remember getting it and like not even seeing it. I was like, "Oh, this looks awesome!" And I remember like as it was releasing, like MTV at the time, they had like the documentary on like the making of Kill Bill, and I just remember watching it. It's just like, "Oh, I'm so excited for this!" And the only real Quentin Tarantino movie I saw at that time was Pulp Fiction. So it's like, what could I expect from this movie? It's like a genre film that kind of pulls from all these different like kung fu and like samurai movies and stuff. I absolutely love this, and it is like a love letter to like the great genre movies, not just like samurai movies or, you know, that kind of, or kung fu movies, but other stuff as well. And as I'm going to get into here, the whole movie, it puts you right into it with the soundtrack. And that's a lot of things that Quentin Tarantino is known for, is like the soundtrack in his movies. Specifically, the Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, all the music in this are pulled directly from soundtracks within his collection, he said. Like, everything that you hear in this movie is from a soundtrack that he owns and that he's fallen in love with, because Quentin Tarantino just has this vast knowledge and just a library of movie knowledge in his brain somehow. I don't know how he has seen all these movies. He's just off his dome referencing movies I've never even heard of, man. It's wild to hear him talk about some of this thing. So it's no surprise to see some of these things that he's pulled from different movies, whether it's soundtracks or just scenes in general. We've talked about it on our Death Proof review. If you haven't seen that one, go check it out, about how every now and then he'll rip like a certain shot or a certain scene or a line from somewhere, and he'll kind of make it his own and give it its own life within his movie. So you kind of see a lot of that in this one, but I can't say really enough great things about this movie, though.
Yeah, no, this movie, I mean, there's a reason it is what it is. I do remember when it came out, it was a cultural phenomenon. I remember the yellow jumpsuit everywhere, Kill Bill everywhere, and I do remember them releasing. Like I said, I don't know why I didn't watch them, but I do remember the absolute phenomenon this movie was when it came out. Yeah. Tarantino, man. It's Tarantino. Who doesn't love Tarantino,
man? Yeah, and as everybody I'm sure knows, he just announced his like 10th and most likely last film. He said he's always going to do 10 films, and I guess it's about like a movie critic back in like the 70s or something. Who knows? It'll probably be like 2.5, 3 hours long. Gonna be some wild shit. A lot of talking. I cannot wait for that one. We're both huge Quentin Tarantino fans. I would love to just do more reviews down the line of every now and then of some of his stuff.
Hey man, I was showing you earlier. I got this big box set. I can start going through it, man.
There's
some movies I haven't seen in here.
There's still some movies you haven't seen in it?
Yeah, dude, I've never seen Reservoir Dogs.
What?
I've never seen Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown is underrated when it comes to Quentin Tarantino, I feel. Like,
it
doesn't get enough credit. I love Jackie Brown.
They're in here. I've never seen it.
Perfect time to do it is for a review at some point.
Yeah. I've always wanted to watch Reservoir Dogs. Less about Jackie Brown. I'm more excited for Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs is a good one too, especially it's his first movie. So, I mean, just to see how great that it turned out for being his first movie. It's pretty wild to see. But this one here was made for $30 million and it made $180 million worldwide. Now, he did film Volume 1 and Volume 2, he filmed them at the same time because he actually genuinely wanted to put it out as one movie. He was going to make a 4-hour long movie just of all this, and they're like, I don't know if anybody's going to actually come and sit down at the theater for 4 hours. I mean, now it's
Wrong
like
time. Yeah.
genuine practice at a movie's like around 2.5, 3 hours now. That's a normal, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the time it was like 4 hours. I don't know if that'll go over with people. So they decided to split it up and they released it, I believe, like 6 months apart or something like that.
Really, that fast?
Yeah,
Huh.
that fast. But yeah, he totally wanted to be one whole movie, and apparently he does have a one cut of it called The Whole Bloody Affair, and he does show it at his movie theater in like LA at certain times apparently, but there's added scenes. Some of it's cut down to make it kind of fit together real nice. I guess that it is rearranged a little bit at certain parts,
Cool
and it would be awesome to see, especially like in his movie theater and everything.
Yeah.
It would be awesome.
That'd be
And it's
cool.
on like, I think all of his movies that he shows in his theater are on 35 millimeter print. So like you're getting that old like theater feel and everything. I think another one of the things that's in there is he colorized the famous Crazy 88's fight scene at the end. That's actually on YouTube. If anybody's interested, you can go check out that fight scene in full color and everything. A reason why they did that is not only to get past the MPAA censors at the time, but it was also kind of like a homage to old Japanese like samurai movies. Whenever they showed them on TV and like in the US and everything, because the MPAA and everything, they purposely made them black and white to kind of show out that you couldn't see the red and the blood and the violence and stuff. So that's another reason he kind of did it. But the MPAA was on his back, you know, as always, as they tend to do. So that was another part of the decision as well. 450 gallons of blood were used between both films. A majority of that was used in this movie alone because, I mean, I saw there's only like 5 deaths in the second one, whereas in this one there's a ton. There's so many people dying in this movie.
At least 88 of them.
Yeah, at least 88 of them. $60,000 of the budget was used for swords and swords accessories, and that's it. That's straight $60,000 out of the budget. Interesting enough, Jack Nicholson, Mickey Rourke, Burt Reynolds, and old Kurt Russell himself were up for the roles of Bill for these two movies. It's hard to imagine anybody else kind of fill in that role. I mean, because David Carradine, you don't really see him at all in this first volume. You see him in the second one. You hear him. He's there in this one, but you don't see him at all. We're not really going to talk too much about part 2. We'll save that for a later day, though. So don't expect us going. We didn't want to do a 4-hour review here or a 3-hour review talking about both movies, so we decided to split those up.
Maybe we'll cut them together.
Hey, I should do that with the Grindhouse ones eventually.
Yeah.
Unlike traditionally, this movie is actually shot in order. Most movies, you know, take the easier shots first and then do the harder ones later. However, you know, you could schedule it for time. This one, he decided to go straight through the script, film it piece by piece, which is, when you look at some of the stuff in the movie in the very beginning, like that's some heavy shit to go into, like first and foremost. And then like the action sequences, like the first fight in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
like my favorite part was Vivica J. Fox.
Oh yeah, she was great.
I love that scene.
But the idea for this movie actually came up between Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino while they were making Pulp Fiction. They came up with the idea of like the blood spattered bride, and they actually just came up with just that shot. The first shot you see of the movie of her all beaten and bloody, that close up shot. That was really the first like Uma Thurman's idea. Like she thought that would be a cool character, and then Quentin Tarantino kind of went off on his own and developed the story and wrote the script and everything. But that's why like the very end of the movie you see like in the credits story by Quentin Tarantino and U and Q. I forget which order it is, but it's because they both came up with the story and wrote the character of the bride. Now, a lot of famous people in this movie here. We got Uma Thurman, we got Lucy Liu, Vivica A. Fox, Sonny Chiba as Hattori Hanzo in this movie. He's a famous like movie star, a kung fu movie star and everything. Daryl Hannah's in it. David Carradine, like I mentioned. Michael Madsen, he's only in just a brief part of this movie.
Again, second one he's more.
Yeah, he's in most of the second one there. Yeah. and I hope I don't butcher this name, Chiaki Kiriyama. But she plays Gogo in the movie. You see her throughout. So, I mean, we might as well get right into it, man. Kill Bill Volume 1. Like I mentioned, it opens up with that first shot. I mean, first you get that famous like kind of grindhouse opening, and then like the old like kind of Toho like Japanese opening to the movie. But you have like the grindhouse like feature presentation thing, like you get at the beginning, like Death Proof and everything. But yeah, you get that first shot that Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino came up with of the bloody beaten bride, the close up shot. She's like looks like she's chipped a tooth, her eyes all like bruised up and everything, and like it's Bill that's talking to her because he wipes her head with like that handkerchief and it has his name coincidentally just on it, so you know who she's talking to.
Good visual storytelling.
Yeah, he's like, you think this is me at my most sadistic, and then it's just like, this is me at my most like masochistic or whatever he says. Kind of a weird thing to say when you murder a whole group of people in a room and then you kill a bride, but you don't know this true story behind everything as of yet, but you'll find that out through the course of this movie, and definitely more so in Volume 2 about the actual scene at the wedding chapel there.
This one's not really story heavy. This one's just a revenge film. It doesn't really give you what's going on until the second one.
Yeah, there is some story stuff, but it mostly revolves around just the people in this movie and just the people in this film, like Oren Ishii and number 2, like Vivica A. Fox's character, which coincidentally is chapter 1, which is titled 2, number 2. But I love just that opening scene because it's just so, it really shocks you because like they have that quick little like David Carradine's talking to her that like I just mentioned, and then as soon as she starts to speak, bam, you get that she gets shot right in the head, and it goes right into like the Nancy Sinatra song Bang Bang, which is such a great way to start the movie.
Yeah, that's a good song.
Just that like twang and like the reverb on the guitar and everything, man. But yeah, it goes right in like that chapter 1, and she pulls up right outside of Vivica A. Fox's crib. You get through
like a suburban.
Yep, just a suburban like little neighborhood. She pulls up in that weird looking truck, which you don't really have a story on as of yet, which we'll get to.
The pussy wagon.
It's the pussy wagon. But she shows up for number 2, which is like codename Copperhead, which is Vivica A. Fox. And like you get through the rest of the movie and through part 2, that famous, like she opens up that door and that stare down. And immediately just start fucking fighting in this, and they go around that whole house just whooping each other's ass, throwing each other through tables, whipping knives at each other. It's a great fight scene to kick off the movie, man.
Yeah, again, no, you don't even know what's going on. It's just basically the first like
what the
actual scene. You're just like, all right.
And like you see like as they're fighting in like the living room, they have that like that little standoff with a knife, and you see that bus pull up outside, and her daughter gets out. As soon as she like walks in the house, they just, oh, everything's fine, don't worry. And like yeah, blood running down her face, and her excuse was like, that asshole dog of yours came in and just ran amok across the house.
It's just like, Sparky did this. It's like, I don't remember the dog's name, but
just go to your room. We'll figure this out. And then they actually kind of have that like a little conversation in the kitchen. And she's like, you think we're even? Like, we're far from even. She even like has a reference to Pulp Fiction in that she's like, then we can be like square. It doesn't show the outline like it does in Pulp Fiction, but she even does like, then we'll be square.
She talks about killing her kid and stuff.
Yeah,
she's like, if we were gonna be even, I'd go in there and kill her too. I'd wait for your husband and I'll kill him too.
Yeah, and it's sassy dialogue. Yeah. She's like, especially Vivica A. Fox. She's like, bitch,
I should have been Black Mamba.
I should have been Black Mamba.
That'll make no damn sense.
But yeah, she's like, bitch, if we were even, I would go in there, I would kill your girl, and then I would wait for your husband to come home and kill him too.
Yeah,
just like, damn, that's some heavy shit. But you think she's like, I gotta get my daughter breakfast or whatever, and she like pulls out that she has the gun just coincidentally hidden in the cereal box. It's like, does she switch that gun every time they get a new cereal just in case?
And also, why is she making her breakfast? Why is she getting her cereal?
She just came home from
school, right?
It's dinner time.
It's lunch at least. Like, what are you getting your cereal for?
Now that I remember, it's like the line she says is like, "You will never be even Steven," or whatever. It's like
Even
there's a
Steven.
couple of different of those lines. Like there's one with Oren Ishii we'll get to later, where it's like a weird, like the tricks are for kids line she says later. It's like
Oh,
that's just
yeah.
a weird little line Quentin Tarantino would throw in there, you
It's a
know?
very Tarantino-esque dialogue. It's like,
Yeah.
you know it's him. You're like, "Alright, that's Tarantino."
But you have that it happens so fast where she just pulls up the box and shoots and just sticks her with that knife, and as soon as she moves out of the way, you see her daughter just standing there, and that's where all these years later you still get those rumors about, oh, Kill Bill Volume 3 possibly, maybe. Even
I would
Tarantino and
like it.
Uma Thurman saying like, I mean, it could happen. You never know.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Well, because I
Uh
love this scene too. She's talking to the daughter, and she's like, "If and when you grow up, if you're still, feeling some type of way about it, come get me."
yeah, and that's like the
It's
exact quote too. If you're feeling a
yeah,
certain type of way about it, I'll be waiting
yeah.
for you.
I'll be waiting.
And so, I mean, we obviously know where the part three would go if that happens. So it's just a matter of will it
I'd
happen in some capacity?
I'd watch it.
I totally would watch it, man. But as you see, whenever she gets back in her truck, she has her like notepad with all the names on it, and she already has one coincidentally crossed out, Oren Ishii, which is going to be the main plot of the movie. So we're kind of going to be jumping back in time a little bit. It's a lot of jumping back and forth because you start at the beginning of the movie, you start with her getting shot. It jumps way far in the future with her, killing number two, Vivica A. Fox. And then it's going to jump back in the past again to kind of see where it pick up from what happened to her after she got shot and everything.
So she kills the Lucy, not Lucy. Yeah, it's Lucy Liu, right?
Yeah.
Before she kills a Vica J. Fox.
In the terms of the movie continuity, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
because yeah, when
Well, then
cause after she kills Vivica A. Fox, she gets in her truck, and Oren Ishii's name is already crossed out.
I have a lot of questions then about this.
So she
I
like
mean, we'll
woke
get
up,
there.
trained, got her sword, went to Japan or whatever, killed her,
Killed
and then came back to the States to kill Vivica A. Fox.
And we're not. I mean, we're gonna spoil everything eventually. She kills this guy that she steals this truck from, and I already have a note in here because it like when she's trying to shake her foot, it's like 13 hours later. I was like, they didn't find this dude's body for 13 hours where they wouldn't look for his car. So now you're telling me she went to park this car in a fucking airport
Somewhere.
flew to Japan, came back, got back in this
Still
car
drunk.
that she stole, and then went. I'm like,
It does
these
raise more
officers are
questions now that you think about it, because
these
I,
are terrible cops.
I've seen this movie so many times, and specifically on this rewatch, I even thought about like what you just said was like, she's in that truck for 13 hours.
13
Nobody found that body or two
Yeah.
bodies, and nobody's
Two
investigating this shit already.
Blood everywhere, and it's his truck. It's not like, and listen, I'm sure other people know he drives his fucking truck. It is a
Yeah,
very
everybody. I feel like
stand-out
everybody
truck.
would know. Yeah.
They'd be like the first place they looked. Like, there's a dead body in here. Go check his truck.
Go check his truck. Why is his keys missing? He doesn't have
Yeah.
keys.
He doesn't have keys. How'd he get here? Oh, maybe go check his truck.
Right.
It's the yellow one that says pussy wagon. You won't miss it.
You're not gonna miss it, and even if it's
Yeah.
gone, you think they would be looking for it because it's missing, right?
Yeah, and then it goes into an airport, a highly secure airport parking lot. Maybe. I guess she could have put it stashed it somewhere. But it's all right. That raises a lot of questions for me.
It really does. But you don't have to think about that. You're already diving in too deep into it.
One of my minor complaints was in this scene too with Vivica J. Fox. I know they never say her name throughout the movie. I know we do know her name.
Yeah, they did.
But they never say it.
They bleep it out. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
Felt like when I saw this movie before, they were more creative with that. Like, I feel like they just bleep it, and I was like, that's not creative. I wish they would like, yeah, I wish it was like the horn honking from the bus or something, like in every
something like
scene they
in the
say it.
background or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my very minor complaint because it feels very forced when they like purposely bleep it, which I don't know why just because they wanted her to be called the bride. They didn't want you to know her name.
I guess
Yeah.
so. Or Black Mamba.
Or Black Mamba, yeah. But
Yeah.
they blank her name out.
Coincidentally, since you bring that up, because they do bleep her name out, there is, if for those eagle eye fans of the movie that can catch it, there's two spots in the movie when she gets her, like, when she flies to certain places, they stamp her ticket. And if you look closely on her ticket, it does show her name. and
Yeah.
I mean, if it happens so fast, you just have to pause it, or you have to be very detail oriented. Those type of things.
It
I
makes
couldn't
the
see it, and
trickster.
I was looking for it. I couldn't see it. I mean, you would have to pause it.
It makes the trickster for kids line a little bit better too, if when you know her name. Her name's Beatrix. I don't.
Yeah.
What's her last name? It's Beatrix something. I don't remember her last
Kiddo.
name. Beatrix Kiddo, and he
Beatrix
calls her
Kiddo.
Kiddo sometimes.
Yeah, he calls her
Bill
Kiddo,
does.
which it makes sense because he calls her Kiddo in this movie, but like anybody can call anybody really Kiddo, so I mean you
Yeah.
don't expect it to be your name, but it
Yeah.
makes a lot of
Sorry,
sense when you do figure it out.
I got us way sidetracked. I'm sorry.
You good, man?
You were blowing my mind with this time hop. I was like, what? All right.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back and forth, but for the most part, through the rest of this movie, we are going to be following that one story here now. Because, like I mentioned, after she kills Vivica A. Fox, it goes to Chapter 2, titled "Blood Spatter Bride," which it goes back 4 years and 6 months earlier, and it goes right to whenever Michael Parks rolls up, and you get to see Michael Parks in these two movies. I mean, you don't see him too much, but I mean, it's cool
He's great,
seeing
though.
Michael Parks in anything.
Yeah, it's always
He
cool to see
rolls
Michael
up in that in his cop car, and he has like 8 pairs of sunglasses lined up
Yeah.
on his dashboard and everything. And it's cool because as they're walking through like the chapel, whenever you see his POV, and it's like green tinted because he's wearing his glasses, and then he pulls them off and it goes back to the regular color. It's really cool. But there's like
calls his
9.
son like young and old. He's like, go get the old one, or
Go get
whatever
the
he
old
calls him.
But there's like 8 or 9 dead bodies in there, and they're investigating, talking about everything. And he's talking about. It always weirds me out when they're in some of these movies where they're like talking about these dead people, and especially Michael Parks is like, look how beautiful she is, and like, oh,
Yeah.
she's got a great figure on her or whatever, and like, oh, she's dead, dude. It's so, and it gets even more uncomfortable once you get to the hospital and everything.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, as he's talking about it, she like spits in his face. He's like, this cocksucker bitch ain't dead. It's like, you get shot in the head. Like, I feel like you're not going to be conscious, but at the same time, you're going to kind of know what's going on, right? Like, you're not passed out if you're sort of there. Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of weird. Or else she's in a coma currently. I don't know.
I think she's already in the coma because they say later in the thing that she still spits. So I think like she doesn't hear him.
They said in the hospital she's a spitter.
And they say she's a spitter. She said it's a nervous tick or something. He's like, she still spits.
Probably so because of getting shot in the head.
Yeah,
it's like something in the
I
brain.
think she is still in a coma at this point too.
It cuts a little bit into the future, not the full 40 years or anything back again, but it cuts a little bit in time. She's in her hospital bed. She's in that coma. This is what a lot of people know Kill Bill for, is the whistle song. And it's Ellie Driver, played by Daryl Hannah, walking through the hallways of the hospital, and the whistle song's playing. She's like in her new nurse uniform. And I love just the great direction of this movie, because you're getting like the split screen shots and the cameras of like her laying in the bed while she's walking down the hallway. A lot of great camera work.
She looks like a fake nurse though, like a sexy Halloween nurse.
It does. It looks like a costume. And it's great because she's not a real nurse, but like she's in there getting ready. She's putting on her gloves, and she comes out, and her eye patch has like the medical cross on it.
Like this is a sexy nurse costume. Who you?
It straight up is. And how did nobody like question her in this hospital as she's I don't recognize you. I'm a little suspicious.
You look ridiculous.
Here. You look ridiculous. That's not our standard nurse garb. What are you doing?
I like I'm sure you've heard it, but they remixed the song, and it's Chill Bill now. They remixed
Chill
the
Bill.
whistle, which is it's actually a catchy song. I listen to it all the time.
Yeah, apparently it is from a 1969 British horror movie called Twisted Nerve. I actually had that written down here. I've never seen it. I haven't even heard of it. That's just like one of the many things that Quentin Tarantino, he's like, oh, I just remember that track from this old movie I watched. It would be perfect for this scene.
Do this whistle.
She's actually come to pretty much kill Uma Thurman while she's in the coma. And she even like, you should be grateful. Like in our line of profession, not a lot of people get to go out peacefully like this. So I'm kind of doing you a favor here. And then she gets that call from Bill. He's like, oh, how's she doing? She's like, well, she's doing how she's been doing for a while. She's in a coma. And he's like, all right. And this is another thing I don't get is like, why would he send her there knowing she's in a coma? And then he calls her and just like, you know what, abort the mission. We've done it. We've done enough to this woman. We're not going to sneak in like rats in the night and kill her while she's asleep. It's like, then what was the point of you sending her there in the first place? Just to have this scene.
Yep. Have that whistle and have that scene. He changed his mind. He's like, change my mind. Go back.
I changed my mind. And she's pissed too. She's like yelling and screaming. She's like, you told me I could do this. There's no love lost between her and the bride. Apparently they hate each other. She even tells her, like, I've never liked you.
Does she come back up in the second one? I don't super remember her.
Yeah, most of her story is in that second one. Yeah.
Yeah,
the fight in their fight in that movie is one of the big parts of the second one. She gets the call to cancel the hit there, and then it jumps 4 years back in time, and that's where she wakes up. You have that mosquito land on her and start drawing her blood, and I guess that's what kind of makes her snap out of it.
Yep.
Until she hears people start coming in, where it's like, if you wake up out of a coma, you would hear people coming, you would want to be awake, right? But
I guess she's assassin. She's trained, like, I need to know the situation first.
Exactly. And good thing she did, I guess, too, because apparently the whole time that she's been asleep, not just her, but I guess everybody in this hospital for 4 years, the orderlies that work there whore out the coma patients to people. It is super gross, dude. Like, what the fuck? And it's so gross. He hands them like that gross, dirty bottle of Vaseline and everything. Yeah. Ugh, it's so gross.
He's like, she's dry down there. And,
she's dry. And that's the thing is like, they've been doing this to her for 4 years. That's nuts. And just to think, not just her, but how many other coma patients are they doing this to as well? It's crazy to think about. I mean,
I bet you shit like that happens, man.
That's what I was going to say is like, who knows how many times that happens in real life? Like, I'm sure it does, which is scary. I mean,
you hear horror stories all the time about like how people like treat the elderly in like those old folks homes and stuff because they're all dementia ridden and stuff. Like, I'm sure it happens in hospitals.
Same type of
World's
thing.
A sick place, yeah.
But luckily she's awake in this one and she can kind of give these guys her comeuppance here because that dude, like, it's the dude from like all those Adam Sandler movies too. You see it. Which is funny enough. But yeah, he's like gets on top of her and like I love how like the camera kind of cuts away and then you hear him start screaming and it just cuts back and she's like pulling his lip off. And then it just cuts to her just drops to the floor with blood all over her face and everything. And I love the score in this scene. It's like, it has to be, I mean, from another movie, but it's like a slowly crescendoing like bells kind of. I love the score in this, but the other guy's coming into the room and it goes in like a slow motion as he walks in and it pans down and she's hiding behind the door and she cuts his fucking Achilles tendon and everything.
It's one of my worst. I hate that. Ugh.
It's not nearly as bad as some other films that you see it done in. It's super not. Quick. But I feel like the next part hurts me worse than that one where she's fucking slamming his head in the door. Ugh. Like
deserves
that.
It.
Oh, for real.
But then she starts remembering.
Yeah, she starts remembering everything because she sees like the keys of like the pussy wagon and she sees his name tag that says Buck. And that's the tattoo.
Buck, and I like to fuck.
And she even says that to him. She's like, your name is Buck, right?
You came here to fuck.
And I love that next scene. Like she fucking flips those sunglasses and puts them on. And it's playing like the 70s like cop type music with like the wah pedal and everything. She's rolling down the hallway in the wheelchair with her gown, messed up hair, just like those Elvis sunglasses.
And they make a big deal here about, and I'm sorry to pick apart this movie. This is a really good movie, but they make a big deal about her feet coming up, that she has atrophy in her feet. She'd have atrophy in her arms too.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking too.
Like, your arms would not work that well.
You wouldn't be able to be pushing yourself in that wheelchair, let alone like smashing a door on a dude's head or like falling out of bed and catching yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, she might be able to do a little stuff, but like, she's like going.
Like pulling yourself up into a truck. I don't think you're going to be doing that anytime soon. But yeah, that's her whole thing as she's sitting there and Quentin Tarantino, he has to have those foot shots, the foot fetish shots in the movie,
Hmm.
and close up shots of her feet. And the first test to get rid of that atrophy is you got to wiggle your big toe, and she's just sitting there, kind of staring at her toe,
Wiggle,
just
wiggle.
concentration, just wiggle your big toe. That's where you kind of take the time to go in and introduce the like deadly viper assassination hit squad or whatever they're talking
Deadliest women
about.
in the world.
Yeah, and it's like and it goes through the list, and it's like the first name on our list is Oren Ishii, codename Cottonmouth, and she's like the queen of the Tokyo underworld, which goes into chapter 3, which is the origin of Oren Ishii, which is not only way different from anything else in this movie, but way different than anything else Quentin Tarantino has done, because this
Yeah,
whole chapter is pretty much all an anime section,
yeah,
which is
it's an anime.
wild.
It's a
Yeah,
good anime too. It's pretty good.
it is very good, and it's
Yeah.
just Quentin Tarantino faction. It's balls to the wall and all out gore and everything too. It's done extremely well, but it pretty much tells the story of Oren Ishii, and she's like watches her parents get brutally murdered. Like she's hiding under that bed, and like I guess it's a mob boss that comes
Yeah.
in and like kills her father. I thought he was gonna like rape her. For some reason, I had the memory of him raping her mom, but he just throws her on the
Right.
bed and
Yeah.
just straight stabs through the bed, and that's where you get the blood spatter all over her face, and that's where like that rage of Oren Ishii was kind of born there. And and coincidentally, the dude that like murdered her family was a pedophile. So as she was getting older, she trained to kill him, and she was able to go in. I think it was like age 11 or 12, she
Yeah.
said, and she went in and murdered the shit out of him in his bed. And even like the two dudes that come in, she like is
I love
underneath
that
the
scene.
bed, popping them all. Like
She
it's
shoots like their
awesome.
whole leg off.
Yeah,
It's
one
just like
shot
the
just
leg
blows
ball.
their foot off. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
It's like
the
a
dude falls and sees her underneath the bed, and then it has like that POV of the bullet
like
like
hitting him. Yeah.
blowing his head off. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it cuts to her like at 18 or 20, and she's like a professional, like one of the top women assassins in the world, and she like has waiting for that like a prime minister or some like high up
Yeah.
politician in that limo, and that's where you see like the bullet fire from the gun and go straight through the windshield and then go through the guy's head, and you
Yeah.
see like the girls look through the hole in his head
And then scream.
and then
Like,
scream.
yeah. Like, huh. It's
uh
very well done though. It's very well animated. Like
yeah,
Wyatt said though, it's so different. It is so different than anything else in this movie. It just comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh, I'm watching an anime now, and it
yeah.
doesn't last long, but it's there.
Yeah, I mean, at the way
20
we
minutes
talk
maybe.
about it, it seems like it goes fast, but it does last probably like 5-10 minutes of it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
extremely well done for that time. And I mean, and I love the last part of that because it's the shortest chapter of the movie, I feel like. But like the last part, she's like,
She did her part in the killing of 9 innocent people. She made one big mistake. She should have killed 10.
and then it cuts back to her, and she's like, "Wiggle your big toe," and then she starts wiggling it, and she's like, "All right, now to all the
Now
other
I'm good.
little piggies, let's
Yeah.
get all these other piggies moving." And then it's like 13 hours later, and she's driving off. Like
And
13
again, nobody
hours to get
checked.
the rest of not just your toes, but your legs are working and everything after 13
Yep.
hours.
She's a woman of dedication. She got this.
But and this is another thing, which is like, I'm sure because she was assassin all these fucking years, I'm sure she's loaded with money. But I mean, she just woke up out of a coma. She got her truck, and now she's buying a first class ticket or whatever to Okinawa right away,
Yep.
getting on the plane. So it's like she would have had to go somewhere to get her money. What happened to her
Yep.
like bank accounts and stuff in 4 years? What happens to all that stuff? Like I feel like
Passes up.
there's going to be a process behind this. You can't just go and scoop your shit and peace out to another country.
I imagine she had it like in a duffel bag somewhere hidden. She just
Yeah.
picked it up. So this is mine.
And they're going to be, and we talked about like they were going to be looking for like what happened with Buck and everything, but her body's missing. They know who it is. They knew
Yeah.
who it was most
There's
likely.
two dead guys and a missing patient. She's like a Jane Doe though, right?
See, that's
I
part
think
I
they
don't. It probably is. My guess.
I think they
is.
say that. I think they say she's a Jane Doe and nobody
So
knows who
yeah,
she
they don't
is.
really, other than knowing what she looks like, they don't know
Yeah.
who she is or anything. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But we go to chapter 4. We're moving right along here, and it's called "The Man from Okinawa," which is
It's
Sonichiba.
This is the most boring chapter to me.
I was gonna say, as I was watching this is where it really kind of slows down for a minute, and for the most part, it is pretty entertaining once you kind of get into the scene, especially like the interaction between him and like the dude that helps run the restaurant with him. He's calling him lazy because he's just kind of sitting in the back. He's like, "Why do I always get the tea? Maybe I want to do the sushi. You get the tea." And he's like, "I've been here so long." He's like, "If this was the army, I'd be a general or whatever." He's like,
今頃将軍だよってんだこの野郎お前が将軍なら俺は天皇陛下だよいいか俺お前は酒を運ぶし
And he'd still give me the tea.
And they get it gets heated because they're like throwing, and he even like throws a knife at the one dude, like he's just walking out and he's like mocking him and everything. I love just like the little banter, the playful banter between them until like she says like why she's there. She's looking for Hattori Hanzo, and he's like, all right, she's a little bit more than I expected. Like there's something about this girl. And that's when like she reveals like she can actually speak like Japanese and everything.
Real big vermin.
Yeah, real big for I need you to make me a sword. But then you find out like he made like a blood oath or something. He swore that he was never going to make another sword again. And you find out like Bill was one of his like apprentices at some point, and that's really why the reason he decides to make a sword for her is because of the vermin she has to go and hunt down. And I love just that scene because he already knows who it is, and he just like writes it down. He like on the fogged up window he writes Bill.
Yeah,
he has that whole wall of swords, and she's like, I don't want to buy one of your swords. I want you to give me a sword.
It's an iconic sword.
Yeah,
like this sword's iconic. This sword, like when you think of like movie swords, is one of the swords I think of. It's very iconic with the yellow handle and stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and from what I should have did more research into it, but Hattori Hanzo is a name from one of these old like samurai or Japanese movies. I forget where it comes from, but it is from somewhere. Too.
But it was like an old Japanese like cereal that he just kept being a Hattori Hanzo again and again. Like it was like a Hattori Hanzo the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Yeah. It was the same guy who did it again and again. Mm-hmm. And that's why his joke is, oh, this is a Hattori Hanzo the 50th, the 70th, or whatever.
It's kind of a similar thing he did with Django too, because in the 50s and 60s there was actual Django movies, like old spaghetti westerns. And even in like Django Unchained, the dude that played the original Django is in it at some point as a different character. But it's like, oh, there could be like different Django's or whatever. And like kind of how there's different James Bonds and stuff, you know?
Exactly. It's fine.
Finally, because he knows why she's there, he decides to make her a sword. And I like how he kind of tests her a little bit. He throws that baseball, she cuts it in half, which I've read it. I'm not sure. I didn't see it like in the documentary because there was like a little like making of, but apparently they did that in real time. Like they actually cut that baseball, like the stunt woman did the slicing of the baseball, which is Zobel, which we talked about in Death Proof. Zobel is famously not just Uma Thurman's stunt woman, but famously has worked with Quentin Tarantino through all these years and everything. But she's huge in this movie. So, I mean, you got to give her credit, especially a lot of stunt work towards the end of the movie that she does is phenomenal.
She cuts this baseball first try, huh? That's cool.
I don't know if she did it first try, but she cuts the baseball for real, apparently. But yeah, he goes through the process of like making the samurai sword, and you get to see the process and everything. He said like it takes about a whole month for the process to go. So my guess is she's just training that whole month, getting it down packed, and they even have like that little ceremony to present her and everything, the sword. And he's like, it's the finest sword that has ever been made, and it could even cut gods or something, he says. And it's like,
yeah.
And even like later in the movie, whenever she meets O-Ren and she's like, what kind of sword is that? And he's like, Hattori Hanzo. She's no fucking way. No way. Not. You lie.
And then when she finally gets it, she's like, oh, I guess it is.
I guess that really is a Hattori Hanzo sword. But yeah, he gifts her the sword on her journey, in which we go right into chapter 5, Showdown at the House of Blue Leaves. Right at the beginning of the chapter, you get introduced to Sophie Fatale and Go-Go and the Crazy 88s. Sophie Fatale is like the right-hand woman of O-Ren Ishii. You don't really know, but she's like her translator, her right-hand woman, like her secretary, assistant type thing. She does have a history, I guess. Black Mamba does know her. She wasn't like, she was there during the killing, but she didn't take part in the killing. She's not like one of those people, I guess.
Yeah, she was just texting.
And it's funny because she's played by an actress named Julie Dreyfus, and I was like,
Mhm.
that's so weird because like
Dreyfus.
you have Julie Louis Dreyfus from like Seinfeld and Veep
So I
and
know,
everything.
like, is it her daughter?
I don't think they're related at all, but
I
it's so
hope it's-
weird because I think their names are spelled like damn like similar or if not the same.
How many Dreyfuses?
And then you have Go-Go, which is like the girl dressed in the schoolgirl outfit and everything, and she's like super dangerous. You don't want to fuck around with her.
It's
And
like crazy. She kills that guy.
yeah, the first time because Black Mama's introducing them one by one as like she talks about Sophie Patel and where she came from, and then like Go-Go, like she's talking to that dude at the bar, like the creepy
Yeah.
dude, and she's like, "Oh, you want to fuck me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess."
Yeah.
Or she's like, "You want to penetrate me?" And then she's like, and then she's like straight up stabs him, and like you see his guts and everything come out. She's like, "I'm the one that penetrated you." It's like, this bitch is crazy. This dude obviously is a pervert, and it probably got what he deserved. But man, just spilling his guts at a bar, damn.
I mean, you asked.
Yeah,
I
you
don't. I
asked.
guess she's supposed to be pretty young.
That's my assumption is that she's underage and that the dude was, he's
Like
a
a
pervert.
creep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get introduced like the Crazy 88s. You don't really go through like an in-depth thing. That's just the gang
Yeah.
that follows them around and everything.
There's
But
like a one leader guy you meet.
Yeah, which is the same dude from the bar. It's the same guy, the same actor from the
is
bar
it?
that plays like the other guy, Hattori Hanzo. Jesus. Yeah, his partner, the bald dude there. He's the
I didn't
same
know.
guy that plays like the leader of the Crazy 88s. And he actually comes back in volume 2 as the fucking the master, the dude with the white hair and the Fu Manchu. He also plays
Yeah.
him in the second one.
I mean, I
Okay.
know we're not there, but that is also where that movie grinds to a fucking halt.
Yeah,
I know we're not there yet.
The volume 2, I don't like it nearly as much as the first one, but it's still good though.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there whenever we talk about that one. But you actually cut to a great scene where you get like where Oreni, she actually, the night where she came into power as like the leader of the Tokyo underworld, and like she's got like they're talking, everyone's like celebrating everything. You see like I think it was like Boss Tanaka or whatever his name is, just pissed off because she's like a Japanese Chinese heritage and she like grew up on like a US base or something. She has like a little like American in her as well. But because of like the gang ties and everything, not everybody's down with her being, a mix. So, I mean, he calls her out and everything, which is obviously the wrong thing to do, to call your boss out for their heritage. And he immediately gets his fucking head chopped off. And it's so fast too. Like as soon as he says something, he calls her a name, and you just see her feet running across the table, and yep,
They're little white socks.
The fucking blade just slashing. You see his head rolled, and everybody's freaking out. That one dude at the end's like, oh, but just crazy over the top because it shows like the kind of back shot, and you just see this blood just squirting out of his
Tarantino-esque blood,
just
just
squirting
so
up
much.
out of, and you could see it's like a fountain because it's like 3 streams like in a row going straight up. It's a great effect though, and I love that line as she's like, "Hey, I'm the leader here. No subject here is too taboo, except for the one we just spoke about tonight."
Yeah. She holds up his head.
Yeah. You'll end up like this fucker right here. Now, if any of you have anything left to fucking say, now's the time to say it. And I love that scene. And fucking Lucy Liu, I feel like this is, you don't see this side of Lucy Liu too often. Like this, I mean, you see her as a badass in certain movies, but not like this, where she's like a villain type thing. I don't know.
Futurama is Lucy Liu to me. That's what I think of Lucy Liu, where it's the head of Lucy Liu.
The head of
I mean, I know
Lucy.
she's in like Charlie's Angels and stuff, but that's really
She
all I
is.
can think
Yeah,
of.
she's badass in most of the movies she's in, but I'm saying like as a villain and everything, like it's interesting to
I'd have
see
to
that
do
side of her.
I'd have to do a dive on her filmography.
Yeah,
Can't say I've seen
that would
too
be
many
interesting.
films. Yeah.
But at this point, the bride heads to Tokyo, where she and I love that shot where she's flying into Tokyo because it's actually a miniature set of Tokyo. And not only is it a miniature set, but it's actually a miniature set they used for a lot of the Godzilla films. And they actually,
Of course it is.
Quentin Tarantino got a hold of it, and they were able to use it for a lot of those shots where the plane's flying down into Tokyo and everything. So
like, I
that's
wanna
another,
use it.
he had to use it. And just to have that part of history in there as well, that's awesome.
He was there. He was in Japan. He was like, I gotta use this.
I gotta do it. And obviously with the cover and a lot of the promotion around it. She wears like the black and the yellow jumpsuit, which of course is from like Game of Death, the Bruce Lee movie and everything, where he's wearing the black and yellow suit. She even has like the helmet to match as she's riding around on the motorcycle.
Yeah,
and she's like
following.
Yeah, she's following Sophie, like the assistant, and then she leads her like straight to like the House of Blue Leaves, and that's where like you see Oranishi and her gang show up, and Charlie Brown introduce them.
They're kind of dicks, these people.
Well, I mean, it's so funny they call him Charlie Brown, but he does look like Charlie Brown. He has the bald head, and even like the yellow, the yellow like gi or whatever, and squiggly line like belt that goes around his waist, so it looks like the Charlie Brown shirt and everything.
Yeah. You want her to be more honorable than she is. She's not honorable. She's like, her whole gang's a dick. They're all a bunch of dicks.
Yeah, and she's sitting there just laughing at her and everything.
Yeah.
But they're ordering shit that's not even at the place they're at. And he's like, we don't have that. And the woman that's like with him keeps like, just make them happy. Make them happy. Like, you know what happened to the other people. Like, I forget what the story was, but these people mean business. Like, if you disobey them, they'll kill you. Because whenever they get there and they walk in, she's already sitting there at the bar when the camera pans over. But she goes upstairs and she's like listening through the screen to what they're talking about, and she just turns around and throws a dart through there. That could have been just an innocent dude walking to the bathroom, just gets stuck in the neck with one of those darts. But she sends Go-Go out, and like she's looking around, and like the camera pans up and she's just hanging on the ceiling. It's like nobody else in this whole restaurant saw her just jump up.
What's that chick doing?
Like someone down on the bottom just like looking around like, what in the world? What is
some
she doing?
kid? Feet don't reach, just like, mommy.
And like I feel like in most movies when someone does something like that, that's when you would get like the drop of sweat or blood that drips down and like alert somebody. And here is probably one of the most creative shots that doesn't really get talked about, I feel, with Kill Bill, and it's one shot tracking of the bride walking to the bathroom and goes in like to the changing room. And I don't know how they did this effect in one shot, because as soon as she walks into that room, it goes to like you can see through the stall where she's like getting ready and everything. But then it like it goes out and it's following like Charlie Brown and the other woman as they're walking out. And as soon as they walk out, then it follows Sophie back into the bathroom and everything. And then it goes into like an overhead shot where you're looking through like the hallway into like the different rooms and like the kitchen and the bathroom and stuff. But that's all one long continuous shot going through that whole thing. And apparently it took like a whole day to memorize that and get it planned out and get it choreographed and everything. But they were able to do it. And the most mind-boggling thing is that when it goes to her in the changing room, where it just, because it looks like it's a solid piece of like wood or a screen there, but as soon as she walks into that room, it goes like clear, where you can see her clear as day. It's so weird. I don't know if it's like a screen they like pulled or what, but you can't even notice it.
I'll have to rewatch. I didn't even notice it was one shot.
Yeah, it's one continuous shot, but that's where like Sophie walks in the bathroom, and that's where she hears the ringtone, because whenever she's talking about Sophie, she sees her sitting there as she's getting beaten and shot and everything, and that's where she hears the ringtone. And you specifically hear it in that shot because it comes back in this shot, and that's how she knows Sophie's in that bathroom. And that's where you get that fucking great shot of Oranishi and her gang kind of hanging out and laughing, and you hear her get called out like, Oranishi! And she walks out and she's fucking holding her there, and she's already bloody. You don't know what happened to her. But like, we got some unfinished business, and she just fucking chops her arm off. Spraying blood everywhere, dude. And she's screaming bloody murder on the floor, just rolling around. Everyone's flooding out of the restaurant, I guess it is. But everyone's
She's like, everybody get out, except you. Except you, Sophie.
Except you, Sophie. You stay right the fuck where you are.
Stay right the fuck where you are.
But yeah, this is obviously probably the biggest set piece of the movie, and probably the most memorable moment of the movie, because this is one huge fight scene for the next like 20 minutes or so, but it's like broken up into different parts. This first part, you have like her close, it's her close little bodyguards for a minute. She kills them, and then Go-Go comes down, and she actually kind of meets her match for a little bit. She gets her ass kicked because Gogo has that big ass ball on a chain that has blades popping out of it and shit. Apparently during one of the takes where like she had to like swing it around and kick it at the camera, apparently it cracked Tarantino in the head while he was directing. I wish there was some footage, like if they had the outtake of that or something, that'd be hilarious. But yeah, she gets her ass kicked in this one, and she even gets like towards the end, she gets strangled out. Yeah, with the chain. Her face is red, and you can see her eyes like bubbling up and everything. Good
makeup effect, yeah.
But a lot of the shots too are just great when they're like jumping and sliding across the tables and jumping in between the tables, fighting each other and breaking the legs off. And that's how she ends up like killing Gogo's with like the leg with the nails in it. Just she smacks it into her foot and then smacks it into the side of her head, and you see like the blood going down her eyes and everything.
Yeah, very artistic death.
Yeah, very artistic. And I love like a lot of those shots were like so weird and cartoony too, like the way she's like throwing the ball and it like gets whipped back and you just see the shot of the ball with everything moving in the background. It's like very like a 70s or 60s type shot. But you have like the one time when she kicks the ball back and it hits Gogo in the chest, it makes like a bowling pin noise, like, and it's so weird just to have that inserted there. But it's like very like comical, like cartoony sound effects at certain parts of the fight. It's so weird.
Yeah, this is a pretty fun scene. They're not this whole fight leading up into her one-on-one fight is kind of comical. They're like she's like jumping on things and they're bending and she's snapping back, you know, like it's like set to 11. It's all kind of like
running
fun
up
fights.
like the stairway rail and
everybody
everything.
runs up towards her and then she comes down, everybody runs down it. It's like, yeah.
She went through that fight, but now she has to take on the crazy 88s.
And flooding in.
I'm not sure if there's actual 88 people in this fight or not, but I would assume there is.
I'd assume there is.
But like we talked about very early in the review, they start fighting a little bit, and as soon as she snatches that dude's eye out of his fucking face, that's when it turns to black and white. And like we talked about, it had to do with the MPAA, but it was also had to do with like kind of the artistic choice, like a kind of a reference to those old kung fu, like samurai movies and everything. But this is probably one of the best fights in the fucking movie. It's just her just going all out with these dudes. And even you can watch the colorized version on YouTube, but even the black and white, you see just blood just spraying and flying everywhere.
Yeah. I don't know what we can say. It's like a 10-minute fight scene, but it's like, I don't know how to like describe it, but it is cool. Yeah, like you just got to see it. It is what the movie part, is.
She's like spinning around on her back, swinging the swords, cutting people's legs off. A lot of ridiculous shit. And there's like, like you said, she jumps and like the bamboo helps her like come down easily, and then she snaps it back up into the dude's face.
Smacks him. It's kind of comical.
It is. There's a lot of comical stuff in it. I mean, the violence itself is comical as hell. Just the amount of blood that and like that spraying and just the amount of violence is it's done to a ridiculous degree at this point.
And nobody in this Crazy 88s has a fucking gun.
Nobody at all. I mean, even when they're coming in on their motorcycles, they have their katanas in like a side sheath, which is we're cutting ahead a little bit, but even on the plane to Tokyo and on the plane
at the end of katana.
Not just her, but everybody in the plane.
Yeah,
everybody in the plane. When she's on her way home, even the other passengers have katana sitting next to them. I was like, everybody just owns katanas in Japan.
Way pre 9/11. Way pre. They were like, I got a sword, bring it on. That's fine.
They don't use guns. They do it the old fashioned way still. They use katanas.
Man, I don't know if this woman came to the top of the criminal empire of Japan and doesn't like not one person has a fucking gun. Not one. She couldn't have been top for very long.
We forgot to mention too about the 5, 6, 7, 8s. The band that's coming in, and because when this movie came out at the time, because of that band in this movie, that song was everywhere. It was in like I forget what phone company it was, but they kept using it in all their commercials and everything. But that song was everywhere.
On the documentary I watched, it said about how he got that.
Yeah, he was he was in Tokyo at like a music store or something, right?
Yeah, and he was getting on his plane and he like went in and he was like, I want this. What's this plane? He's like, oh no, this is a store copy. He wasn't at a music store. He was at another store.
Yeah.
And they were like, you can just go down to the music store, get it. And he was like, no. I'm leaving in like 10 minutes. I want that copy. And he paid him like $40 or something for it. The guy was
Yeah.
like, I gotta call my manager, but all right.
And then he went
But
and
he was
got
like,
him in the movie.
I want that one.
Yeah,
They flew him out and everything.
flew him out, got him in the movie, and I mean, they became a huge like overnight hit at that point. I mean, you haven't heard much from them since, but I mean, I don't know if they're still huge or not over there or not. So who knows? But yeah, there's really not much to say about the fight. That I mean, it's hard. You can't just go through and describe everything, but it is probably one of the most entertaining action sequences you're probably going to see in one of these types of movies. Every time I watch it, it's it's the highlight of the movie, though.
Oh, it's not my favorite fight, but it is my favorite fight's next. But
Okay,
that's my favorite fight. But it's fantastic. I mean, it's a love letter to action films and stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
there's
what
so many like
Tarantino's
references.
It's what he's so good at, and he really like dives into it. And if you go there to see an action film, the scene is the pinnacle of it. It's what it leads up to.
And the way that it ends too is even better because like it goes up the stairs into that room where the light shut off and it's just black and white and it's just like the side shot and it just looks like shadows fighting, and you can still see blood like flying everywhere, but it's all black and white, black and blue, and it's so beautiful, man. I love that shot, how it's done.
And I love at the end when it's one guy left and she
The
cuts
light
his sword
turns
down, and it's like a kid. And she puts her over her knee and starts smacking his ass with the sword. She's like, "Get out of here!"
Didn't your mother tell you to stop fucking around with the Yakuzas or whatever?
Yeah, don't fuck around with the Yakuza. Like, I'm sure some of those Go-Go we already said was
He
a kid.
goes
She was cool
running
killing
out.
her. Yeah, holding his ass. Why was that kid okay not to kill? She killed Go-Go. Go-Go was a kid.
It's funny because I didn't notice. I don't think it's in the regular cut, but when I watched the colorized version on YouTube of like the whole bloody affair, there's an added scene right in the middle of the fight, whenever like not long after it starts, where she runs into that kid while they're fighting, and he's like shocked whenever it's his turn, and she like grabs him and like flips him out of the way. She doesn't kill him or anything, but she spares his life twice in this fight.
Jeez, man.
But I think they cut that out because I don't remember it whenever I was watching it through the first time.
Yeah, I don't think I remember that either. Just the second part where she beats his ass.
We already talked about it before, like how he shows that cut in his theater, which it seems like he's only going to keep it like that because I don't think he's planning on releasing it on Blu-ray or anywhere else. I think he specifically wants people to go see that cut at his theater if they can.
We're gonna have to do it, Wyatt.
Take a trip to LA to go see the whole bloody affair.
I'll do it.
That would be sweet.
It'd be cool.
But we are on the last portion of the movie here pretty much, which is the Oren Ishii. And this is, I don't know how this set takes place because when she walks out, it's snowing now. And it looks completely set different from the outside streets you see like earlier in the movie. So I don't know if it's like, if it's its own little room or what, but I don't know.
I don't know if
it's
it
a great
snows that
set
much
piece.
in Tokyo. It is a great
it
set
snows at the end, like whenever you see her with Sophie in the trunk and everything, it's snowing when she takes her to the hospital. But yeah, it wasn't snowing like earlier when she's driving through Tokyo and everything. So it must have snowed pretty hard while she was in there fighting these people.
And nobody's dressed like it's winter. Nobody. They're all. She's in a motorcycle in like a suit. Like it's got to be freezing if it's cold enough to snow.
But yeah, she goes outside, and I love the set piece. It just looks like a Japanese garden just covered in snow. And for the most part, it's silent except for like that little water thing that tilts down. You hear like the bamboo hit whenever it dumps the water out. And like Oren even says like, "Well, I hope you saved some energy." It's like
she got plenty.
And it's like, it feels like when she says that, it feels like a video game too. Cause I just go through all this fight. Yep. And now it's a final boss time. And he's like, "Oh shit. Now you had to hope you saved your energy for this."
I almost feel like this scene should have been black and white. I feel like it would have been like really
cool
black. I mean, it's done very well, and there's not a lot of color in it because it is snowing out. It's mainly like whites and grays and blacks, but I think this would have been cool black and white.
I think it would have been awesome in black and white. It even plays some of that old style like like samurai music too, as they're like staring each other down, and like they have the first couple hits of the blade and everything. I wish the fight would go on a little longer. Every time I watch it, I feel like it's every time it feels like it just gets cut a little too short, and I'm like, oh man, I wish we would have got a little bit more of that. But 'cause you only really
Yeah.
get like two little bouts together, and then it's over. Because that first little bit, that's when Oren Ishii has the one up. She ends up like slicing her like across the
Yeah,
back, and
Back, yeah.
yeah, and she's like laying there in the snow, and that's when Oren like taunts her a little bit. She's like,
Silly Caucasian girl likes to play with samurai swords.
it shows you how seriously they take like just battle and tradition and stuff. Because even like whenever she gets the one up on her the next time, she's like, I apologize for the remarks I made earlier or whatever. Like she immediately apologizes, like that was
Yeah.
wrong of me. Like there's a little bit of respect though between them, because as you find out like through the movie and even through the second one, you find out that when they were together in that group, the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad, they were like best friends in that group. So it's really two best friends squaring off against each other at the very end of a movie. So there's a lot of emotion behind it. There's some hatred too on both sides in a way. But yeah, I mean, the way that it ends though, just that the swords clash and you have that one slice where she like turns her back and slices and you just see like the top of her head floating through the air. And that's such a great shot of her just sitting there with like the top of her head missing.
And
just,
missing.
Like,
Brain's still there though.
Brain's, yeah, and it's still like rounded. It's not like cut through the top, but
Yeah.
she's like,
She-
oh, that
she
really is a
somehow-
Hattori Hanzo sword.
Just falls, brain falls
Just
out.
drops. And yeah, they should have showed that as and when she falls, the brain just rolls out.
This is a fight. We just came off of a fight that was just so high energy with Crazy 88. This
Yeah.
one really is very somber, very kind of.
It takes its time.
Playing. It takes its time. It's one-on-one. I actually like that it's kind of short. It's like it's quick. That's how it would be, man. You're in a sword fight. You don't get
True.
too many slices, you know.
Yeah.
So I like that it's kind of short. It's like punctuation.
Yeah, and I can't have too many complaints. We literally just had a 15-20 minute literal fight scene of her destroying other people. We can take our time and have a little, shorter fight scene with them. That's only because you've been building up to Oren Ishii this whole time. That's the only reason you want it drawn out a lot. Maybe a little bit more like, not cinematic, but a little bit more action oriented in there. But I think it was perfectly done. I'm not going to sit here and, second guess Quentin Tarantino's decisions. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that.
Yeah,
I'm not
I won't.
qualified to do that. And it's not over yet, folks. You just have the little bit of wrap up here. If I had to change one thing about this movie, it would probably be the very end here is how I would change it. Just a little bit. And I understand why they did it. Oren is crossed off the list. She's on the plane back to America and everything, but it's showing you kind of what happens in between. She ends up putting Sophie in the trunk and she pops open the trunk. She has her helmet on and everything. And she even tells her like, I kept you alive for 2 reasons. And as she's telling her this, it cuts to like Sophie in the hospital with Bill behind her, holding her shoulder, and she's relaying this information to Bill while this is happening. It's cutting back and forth. And the 2 reasons she's kept alive is 1, for information on the squad and where to find them, and 2 is to tell Bill exactly everything that she knows. Tell her everything that she told her, tell her everything that she knows already, and just pretty much to inform him that she's coming for him and everybody. Yeah. And I love that scene. And I wish it would end right here, at the very end where she's sitting there looking into the trunk. And I love that shot because you see it in like Pulp Fiction, you see it in Reservoir Dogs, I'm pretty sure, of just that shot that in the trunk looking up.
I want them all to know. They'll all soon be as dead as Oren.
I feel like if it would have cut the credits there when she shuts the trunk, it would have been the perfect ending, man. Like, I'm coming for Bill, and I want them to know I'm coming. And that's the perfect book ending. But because you split it up into 2 movies, you do have a little bit of a cliffhanger you do want to kind of throw in there. And that's the tiny little line at the very end when it cuts back to Bill with Sophie, where he asks her, is she aware that her daughter is still alive? And that's when it cuts the credits, where it's like, you knew that she had a child this whole time, because whenever she wakes up in the hospital, that's the first thing she does. She's holding her stomach, she's crying, and you found out she was pregnant. I mean, even whenever
they tell you.
The cops are at the investigating the thing, they said that she was pregnant. But at the very end, you find out that her daughter is alive, and apparently Quentin Tarantino forgot that could have been a thing. That was a last minute thing he kind of put in there because he's like, oh shit, I can make the daughter alive. Like she doesn't have to be
why not?
dead. But that apparently that was a last minute thing he kind of threw in there. I understand why they put it in there. Give a lot of, I mean, everybody
I
wants to
know.
come back to see her kill Bill anyway. That's the point of the movie. But I guess it's just another little thing to keep people wanting to come back. But I feel like a perfect bookend for the movie would have been her.
In the trunk.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think that's enough. Like, you have a movie called Kill Bill. We barely got to see Bill or anything. So just the final line of like, I'm coming for him. So then as a moviegoer, you're like, oh shit, I get to see Bill next time. Let's go, you know?
Yeah.
Like, now
And
I
it gets
wanna see him
you
do it.
hype. I mean,
Yeah.
it's more of an oh shit moment as it is right now where you're like, oh shit, her daughter's alive. Whereas like at the very end, if you would have ended it with the trunk with her saying that, you're like, oh shit, I can't wait. Like, give me
Let's
part
go.
2. I'm ready. I don't know. Maybe that's how, I don't know. Maybe it's different in the full version he has, the whole
Full
bloody
cut.
affair. Maybe he has it
Yeah.
kind of cut a little differently there.
I do hear I've read about the whole buddy affair before. I think there's a lot like in the middle that he rearranged and stuff, you know.
Yeah, apparently
to
the
kinda make
anime
it-
scene, apparently there's some added to that he cut out for the theatrical release. Apparently he adds some more into that. I don't know. I didn't really go into it into depth about it, but yeah, there is. I would love to see that 4-hour cut though, if we can get our hands on it sometime.
That's a fucking that's a trip, Wyatt.
Yeah. The one thing we didn't mention though is at the very end of the movie, because we'd mentioned him when we were going through the cast.
Some
Michael
trailer.
Madsen, you see him throughout when they're talking about the deadly assassination Viper Squad or whatever, but you actually hear him at the very end whenever she's on the plane back to America. It cuts to a scene from Volume 2 where he's sitting at his trailer in the desert and he's like, the woman deserves her revenge and we deserve to die. That was the quote that he has. It was just kind of thrown in there. I don't think that necessarily needed to be in there as well, but that was a scene from Volume 2. And Michael Madsen wasn't in the movie at all. To have him have a line in there, give him some money in there for
Yeah, he needs a
anytime the
paycheck.
movie's shown. Yeah, get some residuals off that, you know. But that is Kill Bill Volume 1. Just talking about it makes me want to watch it again. I fucking love this movie so much. And it's such a amazing love letter to the genre films. It's just, you know, for pretty much everything. There's a little bit of everything in this movie, but it mainly covers like the old kung fu and samurai movies of the past. And it's phenomenal.
It is also one of my. I mean, I do love it. You seem to love it a little more than me. I would say I don't watch it yearly, but I do watch it every few years. I really like it.
Yeah, I
You're
wouldn't say
right,
I
though.
watch
I
it
watch-
yearly, but
Yeah.
it's. I would say this is top 2 Tarantino for me. I would say I go back and forth between this and Django is probably my number 1.
I love Django. I know he just wrote it, but man, Dusk Till Dawn is like it's just my jam. I watch
I
that
know,
movie
dude.
yearly.
I watched
every
a
year.
couple months ago. I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and
Oh,
I
it's good
fell
too.
in love with it again. I was like, damn, this
Yeah.
movie is so fucking good, dude.
It's so good. We went and saw it together.
I
remember.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I
I
gotta
feel like
watch
it's
that
every
again.
time I watch a Tarantino movie, I'm like, damn, this is so fucking good, man.
I'm with you, man. Even in Glorious Bastards, which isn't one of my favorites, I do like it.
Yeah.
But even every time I watch that scene in the beginning, he has such a knack for like character dialogue talking that keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Like Pulp Fiction's got a lot of it, even though Pulp Fiction's not one of my favorites either, but it's got a lot of like great interactions. And this is almost a departure from that with those interactions in it. We talked about some of those
Mhm.
awesome dialogue set pieces, but this is probably his most action forward film, right? I mean, this or Django.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Even Django. I mean, at the end's kind
I
of
would say this one's probably the most, action
Yeah.
oriented. I forgot to mention this line. It's one of my favorites in the movie. Is whenever she gets done fighting the crazy 88s, and she's like, "For those that still have your lives, take them with you." And she's like, "But leave your limbs; those are mine."
Those are mine.
And I was like, "That's such a fucking awesome line. It's so badass."
comes out with a necklace full of arms, just like
Yeah, more like a bag of like arms, arms and legs and shit.
these are
But-
mine. I'm taking them home. She could probably get it on the plane with the katana. She's like, nah, these are fine.
But yeah, I cannot say enough good things about this movie. I mean, every single time I watch it, I love it. The love for it grows more and more. Part 2, not so much. I mean, normally I watch part 2 back to back when I watched the
Yeah.
first one. I didn't this time just because I didn't feel like watching part 2 that right away. But I don't know. Part 2, it's a whole different movie from this one.
I'm
So, I
actually,
mean,
excited to watch part 2 when we do it. I've seen it less than the first one. I do remember it, but I've definitely seen it less. So I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely
I,
more of a slower movie than this one is.
yeah.
But I mean, we'll probably get to that one here. Maybe I don't know about soonish, but we'll
Well,
get to it here eventually.
didn't you say it came out 6 months after this one? So we'll do it in 6 months.
Did, but I don't remember when it was in point of what point of the year, because I think it came out the following year. Like one came out in like 2004, one came out in 2005.
There you go. This time next year we'll do it.
This time next year we'll do Kill Bill Volume 2 for
Me too.
probably it's 20th anniversary. So
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, we'll just do that one next year. It's hard to say something that hasn't been said about this movie because I feel like so many people dissect not only Kill Bill but Quentin Tarantino movies in general at this point because of his love for movies and incorporating all these other movies into his stuff. So, I mean, I feel like so many people pick these kind of things apart. There's probably fucking college classes about Tarantino's stuff and books. And there's books about it. So it's hard to talk about stuff that hasn't been talked about when it comes to these type of movies.
There's a reason he is considered one of the greatest directors of our generation. And
Yeah.
it's for films like this, you know, even as somebody who I'm not that big into kung fu movies and stuff. That's not really my jam. They're more your jam. Not that I don't like them. It's just not really my thing. I love this film. It's still a great film for me. I'm like, this is awesome, you know? So to have that on top of having like a love letter to action films and stuff, you know, like I couldn't imagine watching it through those goggles. I already like it enough and I don't have those goggles on.
Yeah. And like we said before, what makes Tarantino movies great is the you know, everything obviously, but the dialogue, the cinematography, and also the music that he uses. And I feel like if you keep everything in this movie the same, but you put like an artist just do custom music for it, it wouldn't have been the same. I feel like if you would, what makes this movie how it is the music choices that are used throughout that gets you hype in certain moments or gets you into the feeling of that certain scene. Yeah. It's masterfully done. And that's why I feel the same way about Django, is just the way that the song choices and where they're put throughout the movie, it works perfectly. And it's hard for a director to make one or two masterpieces in their lifetime, but for Tarantino to have consistently amazing movie after amazing movie, I mean, it's pretty much unheard of. You only have
Spielberg level.
It's Spielberg level, Scorsese level. Like there's only a handful of directors that have done pretty much their whole body of work has been great. You don't get to see it very often, and to have that within our lifetime, to witness that and also maybe see the end of it here coming up soon. I mean, it's like he says himself, every time he releases a movie, he wants it to be like, he wants it to be a big ordeal. He wants it to be a big thing. Like, oh shit, there's a new Tarantino movie coming out. So, I mean, if number 10 is his last one, I'm going to be there opening day like I would be any other time, but it's going to be a little bittersweet though.
A little bittersweet.
It is.
Am I making this up? Didn't somebody from the Wu-Tang do the music with him?
The RZA. There's small parts of original music kind of spliced throughout, but yeah, the RZA did the music through this one, and I believe in the second one as well. I know he did for this one, but yeah, RZA did a lot of the original music in it though.
Because
there's not much, but yeah.
Because he's really into like the kung fu action scene. That's kind of his shtick.
Yeah, that's definitely his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody listening, you gotta watch it if you haven't.
Yeah. If for some reason if you're watching this, you haven't seen Kill Bill Volume 1, you need to watch it immediately upon finishing this review, because it is fucking fantastic, dude. I can't recommend enough. And as how we normally do, like a buy it, rent it, or miss it, I'm 100% going to say buy it. You need to add this movie to your collection. Since it's Tarantino's birthday, happy birthday, Mr. Tarantino. He did say that even though he's going to be done making movies at number 10, he says that he's still going to be writing books, and he's actually has some TV series in the works as well. So he will be directing TV at certain points. He just won't be making films, I guess. So we will be getting some Tarantino stuff going forward. So,
because like I know there's plenty of movies he wrote that he didn't direct, so I hope he keeps writing, because he's a good writer. You know?
Well, he's planning a TV series right now, he said. He's making that 10th movie, but he's also planning on making a TV series he's writing and directing.
What about Star Trek? I heard Star Trek was happening.
I don't think Star Trek's happening, man.
That would be cool.
I don't think Kill Bill Volume 3 is happening unless he makes it into like a TV miniseries or something. Maybe I don't know.
That would be cool. Release on HBO like a 6-part.
Maybe that will be a Star Trek. Maybe it'll be like, because it won't be a film, he'll make it like a TV series, miniseries or something.
I'll be with it. I want to see alien blood just shooting everywhere.
Yeah, so hopefully, even if he's done making movies, he'll continue to make TV series and write books. I have 2 of his books and I haven't even read them yet. One of them's is this one right here, Cinema Speculation. The other one is the novel of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I haven't read yet. But apparently, it goes even more in depth, more so than the movie. It adds a lot of stuff to them. To the lore of the movie and everything. Yeah, apparently there's a lot more added to it in the book. So I'm interested in I'm planning on reading that over the summer because I love how it's like an old 70s trade paperback, like how it looks and everything. You know, Tarantino fashion. You had to make it look old and everything. So
looks cool.
It looks super cool. So I'm definitely going to look forward to reading that, and I cannot wait for his next movie and future projects as well.
Happy birthday, Quentin Tarantino.
Happy birthday, Quentin Tarantino. Thank you
for everything.
Yeah, thank you for everything you've done, man. I mean, I'm going to be watching these movies until the day I die, I'm sure. So,
me too.
Where can everybody find you here, Alex?
You can always find me on Tap That, and I'm always excited to be on the Cinema Trip channel.
All right, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe here as well. Make sure to go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Cinema Trip Reviews. Go check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a good review there as well. And we will see everybody next week.